On this mini episode of Supercars Talk, I talk about the new category TCR Australia. So as most of you probably know, there's a new category TCR Australia out there. It's essentially it's the super touring category, I guess. I don't know too much about it other than they're 2 litre touring cars. They have to be front wheel drive, unlike in the super tour days where you had the BMW was rear wheel drive and the Audi was 4-wheel drive. Everybody else was front wheel drive, I think. I'm pretty sure everyone else was front wheel drive. In this one you have to be front wheel drive, so there is a couple of Subaru WRXs out there. They are front wheel drive, and I'm pretty sure it has to be a 2 litre. So basically they don't make heat of power. It's kind of a weird noise if you're used to the V8s. I did watch the races from Sydney. The racing was okay. I don't know, it lacked a bit of the sparkle. To me, it felt like one of those early super touring rounds, which actually the early rounds of the super touring were the best that was there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this category kind of continues. My biggest question with it is, where's the money coming from? So there was 18 cars in Australia, 17 raced. I think it was a Hyundai that didn't make it out there. Just a little interesting thing, you're allowed a maximum of 5 cars of each make, but teams can only run 2 cars from each make. So this is why we get this interesting where the Kellys are running, they're running the Subarus and the now Holden Astras. They are Opel Astras, but because we're in Australia and they're sold as Holden Astras, so they've badged them as Holdens, and so people will complain and say, oh, the Commodore's not a Commodore, it shouldn't have Holden badge. Shut up. The Gary Rogers is running Renaults and the Alfa Romeos. Now, why I question where's the money coming from? These cars are about $250,000 each. So let's look at the Kellys. So they've got 4 cars, there's $1 million. Then you've got to run them for the year. That's, there's got to be at least $1 million to run them, kind of thing. Like, if your development series ride's probably going to cost you somewhere around $500,000 a year to run. So, you've got to be looking at one of these TCR cars. It's got to cost you kind of 250 grand each. So there's $1 million. Now, okay, for someone like the Kellys, you're using engineers and things like that are already on the V8 side, but really you're not using on your V8 stuff. So you have to find the money for that somehow. So all of a sudden now, okay, they're running 4 cars or whatever, but where do you find kind of that money to buy the cars and to run them for the year? It's if someone had come along and given the Kellys an extra $1 million, I'm sure they'd prefer to pump it into the V8 budget, not running these other cars. I think there's possibly something where TCR Australia or whatever the governing body's called is. I think there's a bit of maybe they've purchased cars or maybe they're leased or something. But the way it's kind of been made out is that these guys have gone and bought all these cars. And off they go and race them. I think there are some genuine purchasers out there. I think some people have genuinely purchased cars, but it seems that especially the Kellys and Gary Rogers kind of coming in late in the piece, 4 cars kind of thing. Seems that we need to fill up the grid a bit, make this look a bit better than it is. Now, I'm pretty sure that Super Touring back in the day didn't really do this. They just had small fields and things like that. Ross Palmer was behind it. He did have his own team and things like that. But, you know, that was pretty above board. You know, this seems it's a little bit kind of, you know, we'll keep it under the desk. It was a bit like when they announced all the drivers and nobody knew who was driving these things until kind of 2 weeks out, and then every day we just got an update of who was driving what car. All a little bit convenient things like that. It's like, no, you don't announce your driver today. This one's announced today, and then this one's tomorrow. You can go on Wednesday, kind of thing. You know, it's yeah, and the V8s could, you know, the supercars could probably take a bit of a leaf out of that book. Where you know, in the lead up to Adelaide this year, on some days you had, you know, kind of 3 or 4 teams announcing, like, you know, showing off liveries and things like that. So maybe, you know, supercars could do a little bit better. This seemed a little bit too kind of, and you'd get a driver announcement, you know, no sponsorship package or anything like that. It was a bit, you know, where's all this coming from? It just seemed a little bit too organised for me. Now, talking about where's the money coming from, all of a sudden, you know, kind of they got their 17 at Sydney. They're really happy with that. You know, they must be really confident, because all of a sudden now we're going to have 30 cars on the grid next year. Considering they had, you know, there's 18 cars in the country now, 17 out on track. To get another 12 isn't a big ask, but where are they coming from? You know, you're going to have to get guys, say, pulling out of, you know, things like Super 2, Super 3 or TCM or whatever, which, you know, it's not a bad idea. Like, people are spending big money on, you know, TCM cars now. They're ridiculous to buy and run. Whereas these, you know, the TCR cars, they're, yeah, okay, 250 grand is a big outlay, but from what I understand is that the running costs and that are quite cheap on them, and you just, you know, you ring up Hyundai or whatever and go, hey, I need a new bit or whatever, and, you know, they send it out from wherever they're making these cars, probably in Europe somewhere. I don't think they'll be coming from Korea. So it is quite achievable, but, you know, you've got to get people coming from other categories, which I think is part of the problem in Australia. There's too many categories. Like, it's just, we're not big enough to have this many categories. Instead of letting new ones in, we should be condensing it a bit. But that's probably a rant for cams for another day. So Bathurst is looking to have a couple more events up there, like, great, because of, you know, all these economics that come into the town and that. You know, it's great for them. So there's talk of a world TCR event at Bathurst. Now, people are going, oh yeah, this is great, we'll have a 24-hour or whatever. As far as I know, these world TCR events are 30-minute sprint races, like what we saw on the other weekend, whenever it was. I can't remember, it took me about a week to kind of get through the races between everything else. But I don't think these things are set up for endurance races. I mean, the guys at Sydney were complaining because, you know, they had no cooling or whatever in the cars, and, you know, 30 minutes in them, and, you know, they were dying from heat exhaustion. I'm being a bit dramatic here, but, you know, they were getting out of the car and complaining about the heat. So I don't think these are set up to do endurance races. So if you do want to do, you know, Bathurst 1000 like Super Touring tried to do back in the day, let's put it on Channel 7 and see how it goes. Your problem is then you get your world guys over, but then they've got to modify their cars to do an endurance race. I think the whole idea is if you get the world guys over, these, you know, then the Australian guys can race them. You know, maybe the talk of a New Zealand series, there is some Asian series, things like that. You know, everyone can kind of come over. We have a huge grids at Bathurst, but I think the idea is to still have sprint races there. I don't think we're going to see a great big enduro where we have, you know, 60 cars on the grid. Would be lovely to see, but I don't think it's going to happen. So TCR Australia, I've ranted and raved a little bit. You can see I'm probably on the negative side of the series at the moment. That's not to say I will try and watch, see how it goes. I will be interested. I quite like some of the characters that are in it, so it'd be interesting to see how they go. But at the moment, the jury's still out. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, and I'm not holding my breath right now. So until next time, I'll see you later.
Put away your inhibitions. Let the beast in you just get loose. We all young, wild, and